Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast live on all popular channels from Facebook to LinkedIn, YouTube, and even Twitter. Today, I'm joined by a phenomenal leader and CEO, Pat Petitti, who is the CEO at Catalant Technologies, co-CEO, actually, and we're going to actually dive deep on a little bit more about that. Pat is the co-founder and co-CEO of Catalant Technologies. Prior to founding Catalant, Pat was a consultant at negotiation and conflict management consulting firm Vantage Partners. And before that, at Booz Allen Hamilton. Pat actually received his BS from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and an MBA from the Harvard Business School. He's a Bostonian, born and raised. He's just an awesome guy. I've actually chatted with him before. And I'm really excited for us to dive deep a little bit on his background, how he built Catalant, and a little bit about his thoughts on the future of work. Pat, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, good to be here, man. I appreciate you having me, dude. This will be fun.
Oh, of course, man. Of course. How are you going and how are you feeling and doing with everything going on in the world, man?
It is crazy, man. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, being locked at home is crazy. I have two little kids. I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yeah. And
my 3-year-old is a complete madman, and the 1-year-old's like had just started walking before all of this. So, that got my hands full with that. I think it's interesting running a company through all of it because all of a sudden you can't like be there in person with people. It's hard to know how people are feeling. Both with the coronavirus and then all of the racial injustice issues that have at least become more prevalent in the past, and more talked about in the past couple of weeks. So it's a funky time, man. It's a funky time, but there's a lot of we have a good team of people who make it easy to talk about it and who support each other regardless of whether it's in person or through Zooms like this. We make it work.
Yeah, no, and what I love about what you said, man, it's hard as a people leader right now, or any CEO, because you can't be there with your people, man. I want to talk a little bit about within Catalant's culture, how have you all been adapting to this current shift?
For sure. So, I mean, the amazing thing is we hired our head of people, I think like 5 or 6 weeks ahead of this all happening, ahead of when we went remote. So I'd say first and foremost, it's been the way that we've handled it is just we have like an amazing leadership team across the board. Our leadership team is really, really strong. And that's been incredibly important because no one person could help handle this themselves with a company with 200 plus people. What we've been really focused on is being extremely deliberate about our communication. So communicating as often as possible, communicating through as many channels as possible, helping people understand what all of this means for the company, how we think about supporting people through everything going on in the world right now, how we think about as a company, our role in helping make the changes that the world needs right now, being really transparent about what we're hearing from our customers, from our board members. I think like communicating, we've had to step up our game on communication, and I think having our new head of people and our leadership team stepping up against that has been extremely important.
And very timely for you to hire them right before all of this happened.
Oh my Lord, I feel bad. Yeah, I mean the thing that's been amazing is we just got back results from our company engagement survey. I think I can share them, and our engagement scores since we went remote have actually gone up markedly.
Wow.
And I think that just speaks to the fact that regardless of whether we're in person or we're talking to people through a computer, the emphasis on communication and the right level of transparency and vulnerability, which I've seen our leadership team show a ton of, has had a really serious impact.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. I want you to talk a little bit about the journey in building Catalant. I think it's very interesting, your background, because we've had a discussion before. And as an entrepreneur, you always face challenges. What inspired you building the company, and how did you overcome all of the challenges that came your way during the process, man?
Oh man. Well, first we had the idea. We were students at Harvard Business School. And we were in a first-year class at HBS where they break everybody into teams of 5 or 6. They give you $5,000 and they tell you to start a company. And it is like not, and they don't expect any of these companies to go and persist beyond the class because it's not like the right context to start a company. it's like a VC's worst nightmare. You've got like 5 or 6 like MBA students. Like, who's going to actually do the work? But the thing that we kept coming back to was based on our experience. Like, I'd worked in consulting. One of my colleagues had worked at a private equity firm, and he had engaged consulting, and his father ran a small business in New York City, still runs a small business in New York City, where he's always looking for help. And across all of it, we just realized that we were sitting amongst a bunch of really smart people who had pretty good experience.
Yeah.
Consulting firms provide one type of solution for companies, but it's very hard for small businesses to access consulting firms. And oftentimes large companies don't need like the big purchase of a consulting engagement. They just need access to the right person or people who've done something before. Yeah. And so we started the business based on that. We built a marketplace. It was called Hourly Nerd. You can probably guess why we eventually changed the name. But we launched the marketplace, and very quickly we had a lot of large enterprises showing up. We realized we had to build something that was less of like an open-ended marketplace and much more of like each company could have their own controlled and curated experience, so that it was much more secure. They could see their colleagues. Procurement could make sure that the processes they follow were all good. We could set up payment processes. We could, have custom SOWs, all that stuff. And the more that we did that, the more we realized that we were building much more of a technology company. And the more that companies use that technology, the more they'd ask, hey, can we actually use this as a software product as well? And they wanted to use it as a software product to help them organize their work, and not just to engage external talent, but actually to engage their employee base in a different way.
Wow.
And so today we have sort of 2 different business lines. One is our external marketplace, which is extremely important to our clients. It is, about 30% of the Fortune 100, close to 30% of the Fortune 1000 use that. And then we have a software product that's about 2 years old, but is growing very quickly and is helping companies fundamentally execute their work in a better and faster way, which both are pretty relevant as workforces are distributed and people are like stuck at home.
So business has actually been good for you these past couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, we faced what I think a lot of like folks focused on the enterprise have faced, which is like just getting people on the phone is tough. And now all of a sudden we're seeing interest come back very, very quickly. We had one of the things we found really interesting was we had more marketing qualified leads in Q1 than we had in all of 2019. And I think that just speaks to like the pretty big interest that people have now, that they're seeing that the world is, a lot of the things that they always knew were going to happen in the world, and they thought, yeah, we'll eventually tackle that. They're like, shoot, we got to tackle that now. Like we're late. So we see a lot of companies rushing to figure out, okay, how do we engage our workforce better? How do we have more visibility? Like, shouldn't we be using digital technologies to help us think about how we get our work done?
And I think what I love about, the way you all have been thinking about this is that this is your moment, right? As a company, right? To shine.
For sure.
And it's so fascinating, right? Because, I've been advocating, talking about the future work for years now, man. But to see how so many leaders and companies have just gravitated to the movement happening right now has been quite enjoyable to see. But also, I think we're starting to realize that really the world of work is about, giving your people more agency, allowing them to engage, even at a distance, but also creating that culture and atmosphere. And tools like Catalant solve that problem.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I agree, but I'm biased. But I think that's right. I think you face this, and it's an interesting time because I was reflecting on this. A lot of people always said that the best companies come out of like recessions or downturns, right? And you hear about all the companies that came out of like the .com bubble. You hear about all the companies that came out in like 2001, 2008, and I never really appreciated why that was the case until I realized that like it actually makes you really challenge your business model. It makes you challenge how you think about delivering value to customers. It's a point in time that most companies don't get a chance to go through, and it's hard for a number of reasons. Like you're like, hey, we got to get customers to call us back. Now that they're calling us back, we see the benefits of that. And we see that, really focusing in and honing in on what you need to be great at is incredibly helpful. So, we hope to be one of those companies. And I think a lot of future aware companies will be.
Yeah. Agreed 100%, my brother. So talk, because the team is distributed, right, Pat?
Oh, yeah.
You guys have people.
Now it is.
Now it is fully distributed. So before, were some people co-located and you had satellite offices elsewhere?
Yeah. So before we had probably about 3/4 of our company in an office in Boston, down in the Seaport. And then the rest of our team was distributed. We had a team in London, a team in Rochester, New York, and then people who were pretty evenly distributed across other cities in the country. A West Coast team, a Central team, and then folks who just kind of work from where they are. And it's interesting because I probably didn't appreciate how difficult it is to work with a group of people if a lot of them are in the same place. But this has been good for us to kind of challenge, like, hey, we probably should actually change the way that we think about working. I think we brought a lot more structure to the way we have meetings. I think we've been a lot more focused in our conversations and in our meetings now. We've put in place days where there are no meetings for certain groups at the company.
Amen to that.
Hell yeah, I know. Like my Thursdays are like 100 times better now.
If you're tuning in, by the way, and watching Pat and I chat about the business as well as the new world of work, please show some love in the comments. And if you have any questions or any feedback for Pat, or any questions about the business or how he manages being a leader and co-CEO, please add them in the comments and we'll definitely show you some love. But go ahead, Pat, as you were saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we've really gotten better as a company because we had to figure out how to get better. And I think that's what a lot of large organizations are feeling now too, is you got to figure out how to do it. And so like, it's easy to wait and to continue to do the easy thing. But like when the rubber meets the road and you have no choice, that's when you figure out how to be better, how to work better.
So Kingsley actually asked, what was your motivation throughout kind of building the company, man? Because I'm sure you had some times where you're like super depressed. Like, it's like, oh my God, the company's about to break. Like things are not working. But like, what kept you motivated, man? Because I've had those times often in building the business with Guide. And I think, for me, it's always been just like, dude, like the mission is very, very clear. I'm passionate about the mission. And plus, we're passionate about the problem we're solving. So what was it for you, man?
I mean, I think that's like a big part of it is at your core, if you think you understand the problem really well, and you think that you and the people around you are really well positioned to help solve that problem, then like, of course you're going to have bad days. And frankly, early on, you're going to have more bad days than you have good days. But as long as you're seeing the progress towards being able to solve that real problem, and as long as you feel like in that progress, you're increasingly understanding the problem more and more, I think you just get more and more hooked. I would say over time, though, as the company's gotten bigger and our leadership team has expanded and the quality of people at the company has just continued to improve, I think a big part of it, too, is like seeing the progress that the people around you make. Wow. For me, I honestly think that's like the most motivating thing is watching, one of our sales reps just knock it out of the park on a call. And I'm like, man, I shouldn't even be here. Or honestly, or like just seeing like the product features that like now our team is pumping out at a pace where like, the best feeling is when you're like, man, the company is moving forward in a bunch of ways that I didn't even know about. That's like the best feeling. And so I think that's what gets me motivated. Like, of course you're going to have times where, stuff goes wrong. Like that's the case, but it's just like seeing progress towards solving the problem that you understand. And now that like collectively we as a unit of 200 people understand.
Yeah, man. That's spoken as a true people leader, man. I love that. So shout out to my boy, Mr. Yoshida. In streamlining meetings and keeping them productive, are your folks using particular frameworks for the meeting to get you to decisions quickly?
It's a good question. No, we're not. I've toyed around and we've toyed around in the past with whether we should put more structure around that. But I think depending on the types of meetings that you're having, I think it's a little bit difficult to apply one framework. But what I've seen happen and where I think people are trying to push toward is one, like make sure meetings end on time and you've got a little bit of a buffer before your next meeting, which like when you're staring at a computer on Zoom all day, you got to do. But the other thing is like it's very clear at the beginning of every meeting, what is the objective of this meeting? What are we trying to get out of this? And before the meeting ends, did we accomplish that objective? Did we get that out of it? I mean, it's simple, but like at the end of the day, you have so many meetings, especially when you're in person. I think it happens more when you're in person. We just kind of like float away, and that's fine because you can like run and catch up and be like, hey, again, what did you say? But on Zoom, like you shut the computer and you're like on to the next one. So I think people have just been a lot more clear about why they're meeting, what they're trying to get out of it, and whether they did.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100%. It's hard to really have like a one size fits all framework for meeting, especially in a remote context too. I mean, I found that doing creative brainstorming meetings, like creative critiques, looking at designs, it's so hard because you don't get a sense of presence and kind of like shared empathy and like contextual awareness of like, okay, we're all paying attention to the same thing, and
Totally,
you're
man.
always having to like talk over people in Zoom videos. I'm like, this is like the most frustrating thing ever.
That's the other thing is we've seen a lot of, I think what works best in these Zoom meetings, I mean, this is super tactical, but I think what works best in these Zoom meetings is like, you call on people. You're like, you're next, you're next, you're next. Like you got to just like control the meetings better because it's super hard otherwise.
Yeah, agreed. So shout out to Mr. Yoshida who's saying, good point. You are correct about the specific meetings context. So he loves that, man. So, you know, Pat, because I think this is really important. I want you to talk a little bit about transparency and vulnerability when it comes to leadership, man. You know, I think you guys have a really great culture at Catalant. In fact, it's allowed you all to adapt, and you all have a new chief people HR lead, like you mentioned. You know, how important has it been for you in creating a culture that is transparent and people feel as if they can bring their authentic selves to work, or remotely even?
Even remotely, and you got to be
even remotely.
I actually think it's I think doing it remotely has been more impactful because I think you have a lot of empathy when you can see like people's kids running around behind them, or like they're in their house just trying to make it work, and you need to be more empathetic right now because this context is just, you know, particularly difficult for people. I would say I think transparency is really important. And I think sometimes people get confused about the meaning of the word transparency. I think they think that means like you tell everybody everything. And that's not the case. I think it's the case, though, that you're clear with people about what you're going to tell them. And if there's something that you can't share, you tell them that and you tell them why. But I think it's about being like honest. I think it's about being, you know, honest and consistent. I'd say it's transparency is useless if you aren't consistent with what you are and aren't transparent about, and you aren't consistent with the way that you communicate it. And I think authenticity is the same thing. It isn't authentic if you can't be consistent. And that's why I think authenticity is actually so important in a leader, because what I think companies really need is leadership where people are consistent and it's predictable. And if you're not authentic and you're trying to be a certain version of yourself, or you're trying to be a person that you think people want to see, it's impossible to consistently be that person, and it's impossible to be the best version of that person. So for me, that's why authenticity is so important. And I think vulnerability kind of goes hand in hand. You have to be confident enough in your authentic self that you can be vulnerable. You can just be you. And I've definitely seen a couple of our leaders like step up in super powerful ways that have inspired me to be more vulnerable. Like the leader of our sales organization has just like opened up his own like personal self a lot more in ways that, you know, probably didn't feel as natural before all this happened. I've seen it across our leadership team, and I think we're trying to do that as well, particularly when things come up that we need to talk about as a company that are personal. So you think about like all of the things going on with race in America today, you know, you can only talk about those in a personal way. Like I can't tell people how to feel, and I can't tell, and I don't believe our company should tell anybody how to feel about it. But I can say like, hey, here's like how I personally feel, and like that's the best thing that's the best I can do. Anything else would be inauthentic or unfair. So I think it's been, with everything going on in the world, all the craziness, and who knows what the hell else is going to happen in 2020. But I can certainly see more stuff in November. With all of that, like I think you really have to be a leader right now. I think it would be tough if you couldn't be authentic and pretty vulnerable.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Who have been some of the leaders in your life that, you know, that either influenced how you approach leading, and also maybe, you know, wrote a book on it that has really inspired your leadership approach, man?
Totally. So honestly, the number one person is my former, a couple of my former managers from one of the consulting firms I was at, Vantage Partners. And that firm was interesting. That firm was interesting because they wrote the book on conflict management and negotiation, right? Like literally they wrote like the book. It's called Getting to Yes. It's one of the best-selling books, business books of all time. And what they would do is they would work with companies to help them, companies that had a particular context where they needed help making sure that there wasn't going to be conflict, but context where like conflict was almost inevitable. And they had a bunch of frameworks and processes and approaches to helping companies become better at conflict management and negotiation. And I think I just learned like a tremendous amount there from them. I learned a lot about like being like your true self. I also learned a lot about having empathy for why people end up in conflict and say and do things that you might think are crazy, but they certainly think are reasonable and rational. Um, and I think I just learned a tremendous amount in that process about like how to approach conflict and challenging situations and context that's like rife for conflict, which like a startup certainly is.
Yeah. Very often, right? There's a lot of compromise that you have to make, and it's easy to be it's easy to get into arguments, but when you have objective kind of metrics or objective goals and shared goals, things are much more easier. It's interesting because I think there's this really powerful book on conflict management. I forget the name of it, but it's nonviolent communication, I believe. You're probably familiar with it.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And CEOs and leaders such as Satya Nadella have shared it, and they say it's essentially, and it's also Martin Luther King was someone that really proposed it and encouraged leaders to really think about how do you approach nonviolent communication. So often communicating from a place of empathy, and I think what's often missing is active listening, especially in conversations. So being able to summarize or rephrase or contextualize what do you feel, how do you feel? And I've often found that the best managers do that really, really well. It's like they're always present and they relay back, okay, so this is what you said, right? Like, and it's like it's a really very small and simple tactic, but it's so surprising how many managers and leaders fail to do it.
Yeah, big time. We do this thing at our company that we started a couple of months ago. It's a tool called the Leadership Circle. And we have a head of L&D who is like phenomenal. He's the best in the game. And so he's used the Leadership Circle at a bunch of different places, and he knows how to apply it well. And one of the things I'm working on now, which came out in the Leadership Circle, is exactly what you just said. It's like being able to be effective at proactively restating the opinions of other people around you, just to make sure that you do truly understand their perspective. And it's also something that when I was at that consulting firm, came up a lot. They had a framework called the ladder of inference, which is really all about like people argue at the top of their ladder at the conclusion level. But the way that you come to a conclusion is you look at evidence, you interpret it, and then you come to a conclusion. And your brain does that in like a second. Yeah. And so the key is like understanding like how do people get up their ladder and making sure they can come down yours. And I think about that all the time. I talk to people at Catalant about that all the time. And it's something that like I trained people on it. I worked with like the best people in the world at applying it, but it's you're fighting against like human behavior, and you're fighting against like what your brain naturally does. And so you just got to stay on top of it and constantly be trying to get better at it.
Powerful, man. So talk to me a little bit about, okay, what are the 3 skills that you can summarize are critical to leading a distributed organization, man? And really quickly before you dive deep on that, I want to show love to the people who have been commenting and tuning in. So shout out to Neha, who's saying being vulnerable in leadership is to share weaknesses and ask for help, and it shows it's okay to ask for help. How you feeling about that, Pat?
I think that's a component of it for sure. Yeah. Like the way I always think about it is like, why do you hire all these people? Like you hire people who are like way better than you. I should not be better than anybody at what they're doing, honestly. And so like, if I don't need their help, then like either I hired the wrong people or like I am like doing something totally wrong.
I love it. Shout out to Mrs. Hart, Betty, who's saying vulnerability in a leader means you can step down or step aside and allow growth within your team, department, organization. Preach to that. And also I think it's vulnerability and also just being open to like growth. I think, when you're building a company, you're building anything and you're leading, it's like you want to be able to facilitate the work and make sure that people are clear on, okay, this is what we want to achieve. Let's do it together. And I think a big part of having a we mindset too, Betty, is it includes vulnerability. Like I trust that you all can do a great job because we're better together. It's interesting because I think it's hard when you're a first time manager because you're so tied to the work. And I would love to get your thoughts on this as well, Pat.
Totally. I mean, I think that's exactly, it kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying before, which is like, I think being vulnerable is like not expecting that you have to be a part of the successes that the company has, right? Like it's knowing that like in the ideal world, great things happen and you found out about them after the fact. right? And if you want to run a company, like, obviously my aspiration is that Catalant becomes a heck of a lot bigger. And I know that if I want to be able to run a company where Catalant continues to grow, like, I can't be involved in everything. I can't, like, God, it would be a real problem if I was, involved in every successful thing that happened. And in fact, like, I should be involved in very few. At the end of the day, it's like my job I view my job at the company as just like clear the woods for everybody else, like make it easy for everybody else to like drive down their path and do the things that they're great at. And I'm just like trying to get shit out of the way.
Love it, man. Love it. Man. So talk to us about those 3 skills, man, that you would say are crucial to leading a distributed organization.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're hitting on a lot of the same themes here, but so I apologize if it feels like I'm repeating a lot of stuff, but like one big one I think is really having enough confidence in yourself to like know when you can trust all the people around you. Like, I think that's really, really important. I don't believe that you can lead a distributed workforce or a workforce at all for that matter if you don't truly trust the people that are around you. And so like that means that if you don't, you have to be able to like address that immediately. But it also means that you need to be like comfortable and confident enough in yourself to like let them go and do their thing and come back and be able to talk to you about the results or whether they were able to accomplish it. And I think part of that is also making them comfortable coming to you. So I think another key skill is being, and I don't know the exact word for this, but I know that as a leader, something that's very important is making the people who you work with comfortable coming to you with problems, right? Like, they have to be willing to come to you with problems and not be afraid that you're going to say, well, how could you have gotten that wrong? Or how did you do that, right? And that's so important because I view myself, again, like I shouldn't have the answers to most of this stuff. Like, they have the answers, but I do want to be a person who they trust to come to as a sounding board or to work through things or to think through hard problems together. And so I think you really have to cultivate that trust from them to you, where they feel like, they can come to you, tell you something that they totally screwed up. And that's okay. Like, we're all gonna screw something up. And then I think the last one is growth mindset. And I think having a growth mindset is extremely important. It's very core to one of our 3 cultural values. Our cultural values are be excellent, be a force multiplier, and be audacious. And I think it's like being excellent. Like, how can you be excellent if you don't have a growth mindset? You have to believe that you can always be better. And gosh, like I certainly believe that, and I've seen that. Like, I think back to some of the stuff I used to do as a leader of the company, and I shake my head, and hopefully, like in 2 years, I'll think back to times like today and be like, man, those were like, because you got to constantly be trying to get better and trying to grow. And I think that's also important though, because of course you want a company where people are doing that, where people realize they can get better and it's okay to give feedback and they want to receive feedback. And our head of L&D always says, feedback is a breakfast of champions. And I think it's true. Like, but if you don't have a growth mindset as a leader, then like, I can promise you the people around you won't either.
Powerful, man. Powerful. Shout out to Mr. Yoshida, who is saying, sadly, I need to jump into a meeting, but thank you so much, Pat, for all you have shared with us. Amalo, Nui, Lo. I don't know how to speak Hawaiian. That's tough for me. You got to teach me, man. Tim, for all that you're doing to share these amazing resources with us. Of course, man. You know what, Pat? Thank you so much for coming on to today's show, man. Pat, if there's a powerful takeaway you can leave our guy community, what would it be, man?
Oh man, I think it's hard. Like, I think advice is so contextual, and I think it really comes down to who you are and what you're doing, what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, I do believe that it is incredibly important to be able to be authentic. And that doesn't mean like always say the thing that's on your mind, and that doesn't mean like be the same way with your work colleagues as you are with like your friends or your family. But it just means like have a work version of you that is who you are. It's a reflection of who you truly are, because it's so difficult and it's a waste of energy, and it's frankly, it like will hurt trust, and it's always apparent if you aren't authentic, if you're trying to be somebody who you're not. So that's always, I think, the most important thing. There's a million types of ways that leadership can work, but I would argue like the one consistency across all of them is that it's an authentic reflection of who you are as a leader.
Powerful, man. When's that book coming out, man? You need to write a book, bro.
No, man, I can barely write. Nah.
Dude, you have to write a book, man. Pat, thank you
Come
so
on,
much
man.
for being on the show
Podcasts
today,
are all the
man.
thing these days. You don't need nobody. Who's gonna read? In 5 years, books won't be a thing. It's all
I
podcasts.
actually do believe in that, like 100%. You actually have
Yeah.
a point there, man. With that said, Pat, thank you so much for being on the show today. Can the people connect with you on LinkedIn or Twitter?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Hit me up whenever. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Hit me up. Happy to chat. I'm not a big Twitter guy, or like social media guy, but I'm on LinkedIn.
Shout out to Pat. He's on LinkedIn, so definitely make sure that you connect with him. With that said, Pat, we need to have you on a future episode, man.
Oh, anytime, man. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome talking to you. Yeah, I want to hear more
Thank you,
about your
man.
business too. We'll catch up after.
Oh, we'll catch up. We'll catch up, man. Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, take it easy, man.
Peace. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into the first part of today's awesome episode with Pat Petitti. Make sure you go check out Catalant. They're really doing amazing work in terms of the future of distributed teams as well as the future of work. So I'm really excited to have had Pat on the show, share a little bit more about his thoughts on leadership and distributed teams. Now, in a few minutes, or let's say about 11, you'll all take a break. I actually have a really awesome guy on the show who is the founder and CEO of Product School. You've probably seen this guy around because he's everywhere. Carlos Gonzalez Day, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name because it's so amazing and so contextual. Carlos is actually the founder and CEO of Product School. And he's actually been building Product School for about 5 years now. So if any of you are interested in being a product manager or you're passionate about product management, what it's like to lead a product team, this guy has the answers. But he also has the answers on what the future of lifelong learning looks like. So I'm really excited to have him on the show at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So feel free to take a break, and then we'll be right back. With that said, make sure you have your handy notebook with you or whatever, or if you want to share this on your LinkedIn network because you know someone needs this information in a few minutes, make sure to share it with your LinkedIn network and definitely tag me on what you just learned from Pat, right? Because Pat actually had a lot of wisdom to share that I think is super important in today's day and age. So definitely mention us, mention Pat if you learned something, connect with them. He's super open, he's super accessible, and he's super awesome. With that said, I'm going to take a few minutes break and I'm going to come right back and we're going to have another conversation, y'all. All right, y'all. Talk soon. And we are back. And before I bring Carlos on, I'm excited because this guy is amazing. And I hope you all during the break got some water, because I drank some water, or got some tea. Here's my little teacup. I love my little teacup. Or maybe you even read a quick book. Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur is one of actually my favorite poetry books. So check it out if you're super interested in it. But I'm actually about to bring on a fantastic entrepreneur and an awesome leader as well. Carlos is an entrepreneur with over 10 years, serial entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience building global scalable companies and digital products. And he founded Product School in 2014, which is the global leader in product management training with a community of over 1 million product professionals. All the instructors on Product School are real world product leaders who work at top Silicon Valley companies, such as, you've probably heard a little bit about them, Google, Facebook, Netflix, Airbnb, PayPal, Uber, and a little company called Amazon. Throughout his career, he's participated as a speaker in more than 1,000 conferences and events and classes around the world. He is like a natural born educator, man. And outside of work, he loves soccer and skiing. He's a phenomenal guy, and I'm really excited to have him on the show because we're going to talk a little bit about product, lifelong learning, and really his journey in building Product School. So let's go ahead and bring him on the show. Carlos, what's up, buddy?
What's up? Thanks for having me, Tim.
Oh, of course, man. Thank you for finding time and coming on the show, man. How's everything going on in your world, man?
I can't complain. We're here sheltering in place, but happy and healthy.
Dude, so happy to hear that, man. Because you're tuning in from San Francisco. Well, the Bay Area, I'm sorry, right?
Yeah, correct. I'm originally from Spain. I moved to the Bay Area 10 years ago.
Wow, man. So what actually motivated the move to the Bay, man? Tell us a little bit more about that.
I love tech, and I just wanted to be part of this Silicon Valley movement. And I just had to figure out what is the easiest or best way to get here. And in my case, it was as a student. So I saved all my money that I made in the past. As an entrepreneur, actually, I never bought a house, never bought a car. I just wanted to come to Silicon Valley, and I found a program at UC Berkeley that was able to afford, and here I am 10 years after.
Dude, it's so amazing, right? Because the hustle and bustle of Silicon Valley is always a draw to people who want to come out here and build something amazing. And a lot of people don't know, prior to Product School, you are already an entrepreneur. You built your first company. I would love for you to share a little bit about what was it like building your first company? What were some of the hurdles that you went through, man?
I think I was so naive that I was just building it and having fun with it without really worrying about a lot of the hurdles. So my first, I would say, non-official company was when I was still in school selling wristbands online. That's when I discovered the internet. I was like, oh my God, I can buy something somewhere and then I can sell it in another place and I don't need inventory. And now that obviously sounds very obvious with eBay, Amazon, and all these online stores, but it was really a breakthrough moment for me. And I made quite a bit of money just selling and trading stuff online.
Yeah.
And, just kept saving money. And at the same time, I was having this situation where, like, I'm learning so much by just building things on the side. I wouldn't even call it product management. It was just curiosity of using the internet. And at the same time, I'm obligated to go to school first, then college, where, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm getting my degrees. My parents are happy. But I'm living in a parallel world here where I'm doing what I want. I'm learning what I need. And at some point, I merged those two worlds and decided, why don't I start a company where I can create? It's a platform basically where anyone can teach. I was this is way before Product School. It was similar to what today is Udemy or Udacity. At that time, the wasn't that MOOCs, massive online courses were very popular. So we created a platform for anyone who wanted to teach anything. So you didn't need to be an instructor. You could be good at baking cakes or designing websites or whatever it was. Think of it as a YouTube, but just focused on education. And we did it. We raised a bunch of money in multiple continents. So we started in Spain, but then we also opened a company and space in Chile, in Latin America. I was part of an accelerator program called Startup Chile. Then I raised more money from an accelerator program here in the Bay Area called 500 Startups. So that was kind of my way to come back after being a student. And it was an incredible journey. We had to learn everything from building a product to getting customers to raising money. And I think that was also one of my inspirations to then start product school, because again, I was feeling this itch of like, okay, none of the stuff that I learned in an engineering school, I started computer science in Spain, and then all the business programs that I took in Berkeley, that's nice for my resume. And obviously I met incredible people, but at the same time, I didn't really learn what I needed in order to build something online. So after doing digital products basically for almost 10 years, I decided to create a school, which is a hybrid in between an engineering school and a business school called Product School, to hopefully accelerate career growth for people who are kind of in this situation.
Yeah. Let me ask you, because, a lot of people don't, I think no one asks to be an entrepreneur. You just find the conviction when you're passionate about a problem that you want to solve. At what moment were you just convicted that you had to build Product School after building a prior venture and going through the hurdles and the challenges of that?
So for me, it was a solution to my own problem. And I think that's something that it's hard to fake, because it was so core to my bones, to my values, that the fact that I had to struggle so much to, first of all, come to a different country, then to start a company, then to get the education and the mentors to really be set up for success, that, just connecting the dots, looking backwards, I was like, oh my God, I spent so much time, and I think I know a thing or two, and I can accelerate this learning process for many other people. That was obviously the first idea. Now it's not about me anymore. We have an entire network of product leaders who work at incredible companies, like, as you mentioned, like Google, Facebook, and so on, that
Salesforce is the best.
And they know much more than me about product. And I think that's great, to get to a point where you can build something that is bigger than yourself.
Yeah, no, it's so powerful too, because you're really actually also creating pathways for many people who don't know how to get into product management. Is there one story that really touched your heart about someone that took a class in Product School and really kind of came out evolved and accomplished and fulfilled?
So when I started, I was personally teaching the classes, so I knew every single student by their name, and I took it so personal. I really wanted to make this happen. So I would go my way to help with interviews, introductions, and salary negotiations in some cases. And there's so many incredible stories behind the scenes. But one of the things that make me very proud is that this is not just for like amazing software engineers or MBA graduates from top schools. We can help many other professionals who might not have had the opportunity to access other, jobs or universities, and we're democratizing access to product management training. So from real estate brokers to attorneys to people who actually didn't go to college, basically it's not about what you did in the past, it's what you are really willing to do from now on.
And and I think it's kind of breaking this bounds that people are not their circumstance. Like, if you don't know about product management, you can get in. And more importantly, you guys offer so much content too on the Product School website, free content, books, resources. I want you to share a little bit about all the amazing content that you all have on Product School around getting into product management, and how you came about really building that library. Because, for me, I've actually even read some of the books, and it's so interesting how resources like that, even outside of the Product School and the service, can be life-changing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. What can I say? I don't understand why some people stop learning in their mid-20s and then suddenly it's like, okay, and now you have to work for the rest of your life. Well, what if you can do both? And you can learn on demand whatever you need, whenever you need it. And you're probably in a position, once you are the one who chooses what you want to learn, you're probably going to care much more, and you're going to get much more value. Like, when I was in school, I could take classes on marketing, but I didn't have anything to market. Now, like, oh my God, how do I figure out SEO or paid acquisition or whatever it is? So going back to product management, there was a lot of information online, but it wasn't really curated. So it's really hard to know what's good. And I wanted to create a community way bigger than our courses. Yes, we offer certifications, and that's our business model. That's how we are able to sustain the community and reinvest in growth. But the real concept of product school is a community. It's really giving access to anyone who wants to learn about product management. And if you are not ready to take a certification or you can't afford it, you can still get value. So we put together around 1,000 events per year. They're all free. We also do 6 conferences per year. We publish books. We have online communities, discussion forums where people can connect with mentors and ask questions. And I love it. I think that concept of giving as much as you can is something that will eventually pay off. But you have to give without expecting anything in return.
Man, it's such a powerful philosophy. And I think for us, even at Guy, one of our core virtues as a company is that be of service, right? And, it's literally and really be of service to creators, because we believe creators, people who have the talent within the organization, are truly powerful. But it's also kind of not feeling as if you have to being it's similar to kind of Amazon's customer obsessed is how we kind of position it when we created it. But to your point, it's being of service without expecting anything in return. And I love how you've driven that mindset within Product School. In addition to that, Product School is actually distributed as well, right? You all are not all in the same location. Can you share a little bit more about what it's like leading a distributed team?
Yeah, well, so it used to be our competitive advantage. I think now it's a commodity, right? There's no other option. But yes, we started this company as a remote team from the get-go. So we have people in Europe, people in the US, people in South America, people in Southeast Asia. And so now when all of this happened, of course, it's unfortunate, but from a business standpoint, it didn't really change the way we collaborate with each other.
Yeah.
And I obviously think that if we are offering online education and online resources, it's important to drink our own champagne.
It's true. It's true. So, how many? So, what's the product management to? How many product managers are in Product School? Because being a company that helps product managers, do you all have a lot of product managers, or is that everyone's responsibility within Product School? I'm interested to know.
So it's funny, one of the key decisions that I made at the very beginning was best instructors are not teachers. Best instructors are practitioners, especially in the topic that we are covering. It's changing so fast that it's important for you to not get rusty. So we intentionally didn't want to just hire full-time teachers. All the instructors who teach at Product School keep their full-time jobs at Google, Facebook, Amazon, and so on. And I think that's very powerful for both the students, but also the instructors, to give them the opportunity to give back to the community without having to quit their amazing jobs.
Yeah. And being able to do it part-time and being associated with an amazing school that allows them to build their networks, build their community, and also share their knowledge. For you early on, was there a product manager or a potential company that you were wow, because I think I've read stories that some companies actually use Product School to train their junior product managers, is what I've actually read that. And I think that's so amazing. So for you, when you were kind of doing customer development early on and building the company, were you just kind of surprised about how many companies were oh, wow, we need this as well? Not only do we want our people teaching at Product School, but we actually want it within our organizations.
What's very interesting, when you spend some time in Silicon Valley, you start getting kind of group thinking and expecting that the rest of the world operates like Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to step back for a second and recognize how grateful we are to have access to incredible mentors, to incredible companies, and the future of work. In many ways, it's already happening in a lot of the companies in Silicon Valley. So I've been lucky enough to have access to a lot of that, and I wanted to take some of that magic and give it to people who are not in Silicon Valley, or even if they are not working at cutting edge companies who are really shaping the future of product management. So I have a lot of admiration for companies such as Google, Uber, LinkedIn. I think they have top-notch product organizations, and they've been doing it for a very long time. thing is product management became cool suddenly. So
Yeah.
it's very good to have the opportunity now to take some of those good practices and show them to other organizations that want to be more agile. And that is fascinating, because you'll be surprised. This is not just for the small startups who are trying to build their first product. This also applies to large Fortune 500 companies who are going through huge digital transformation efforts.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to figure out a lot of things that might seem obvious to us just because of the position or the time we spend, working in tech in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Carlos, because things have changed, right, for most businesses now, in a sense where everything is remote, right? So product management remote is remote, HR is remote, marketing is remote. What do you think the future of product management looks like in a remote context?
I think the future is also remote. And there may be some hybrid options depending on the circumstances. But if anything, I want to believe that what happened was an opportunity for us to accelerate a lot of the decisions that organizations would have made in the future. And because there's no plan B, we have to figure it out. So I feel very comfortable in a remote environment. We've done a lot of online training for large organizations online. And, some of them would also be like, hey, we haven't done this before. But now everyone is coming to terms with the fact that if we assume that this is the new normal, let's look at the opportunities. Maybe we can identify talent that is not in our neighborhood. Maybe we can access to training or mentors who are not in our neighborhood. And obviously, technology is pushing in that direction to enable us to do things like what we are doing right now.
Yeah, it's true. And, even for us within Guy, we are a distributed team. And I think, to your point, we're going to see more hybrid models where you're going to have some co-located product teams, and you may have engineering continue to be remote, because especially if you're an engineer, you do not have to be on site at all, because traditionally engineers do everything either through GitHub or or through a repository and and a SaaS-based solution. And I think we're definitely seeing, and when my co-founder Taban, he talks about this often, is the future of distributed engineering, and then I think the future of distributed product management as well also applies, where product managers and engineers are all either co-located or distributed, maybe in the same time zone, or even in like international time zone. But you just, as a product leader, if you're building a product division, you have to be selective and making sure that people are still aligned and they're still within that same that time zone, so they can move faster and keep up to each other and still be able to build camaraderie. But I love that you said hybrid solutions, because I think that we often talk too much about, let's go fully remote or let's bring everyone on site, when there's like this really healthy in between that a lot of companies miss out on.
Absolutely. And I also think about the next generation of professionals who are joining the workforce today. Even new generation of companies. They may not be thinking about investing in an office as their number one thing.
Yeah.
So that's also pushing everyone to start thinking about being more global. One of the things that personally helped us was to embrace the situation instead of thinking, okay, when all of this passes, then we are going to be fine. Like, okay, this is what it is, and we don't know for how long this is going to last. So let's try to make the best out of it, and let's not look back. Let's see, what we can go from here.
Powerful, man. Powerful. So let me ask you, man, because I think this is really going to be an important question. For you, what is the biggest thing that you think organizations can do today to prepare for the future of work?
The future of work, it's a powerful word. It's also almost overused in many ways. So it really depends on the context. But I think we shouldn't stop. I think that what just happened is something that had to happen for some reason, and we can't just put our life, our organizations on hold, saying, okay, well, I'm going to resist. And then when all of this goes back to normal, then I will invest in this tool, or I will invest in learning, or I'll do this and that. I do it now, because the future is today. And I think that even talking about the future too much, or talking about digital transformation too much, gives people the excuse to not do right now.
Yeah. And it's all about what are you molding? What is the future that you're building, right? I love that, man. I absolutely love that. I think often people think that when you think of the future of work, oh, it's something that's like in a far distance. We're actually creating it right now with so much of the things going on. So shout out to Saad, who's saying, my boy Saad. Saad is an amazing guy. He's also a product manager as well. Carlos, great to hear your insights. Love the last live stream production and looking forward to many more. Oh, thanks so much, Saad.
Thank you.
Carlos is pretty awesome. Make sure you connect with Carlos on LinkedIn. Now, this is someone whose name who I cannot pronounce. I agree. The best teachers are those who actively practice in their field. So he or she was feeling you on that point. You know, so if anyone's interested in being a part of product school or part of your community, how can they learn more and join?
So the easiest way is to go to our website, productschool.com, and join for free and get access to all the resources right away. And one of the things that you mentioned at our conference, it's important to repeat it, because when we started the conferences, they were all in person. And we had 5: San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Seattle, and London. And of course, it's amazing to get together with incredible people for a day. But then we added this conference number 6 called online. And we were almost ashamed of saying, well, are people going to think that the online conference is not as good as the in-person conference? And we had to come up with a different brand almost. And then this year, we're like, no, ProductCon online is as powerful, if not more, than any other conference. So let's, first of all, put it at the same level. And let's also open it up. We did this experiment in April. It was the first online conference, and we offered it for free to the entire community. We got over 100,000 viewers. And you know what? It makes me feel good. And yes, I was afraid of the quality of the production because some people are streaming from their home. So what? Like, we all understand we are here for the quality of the content and the inspiration. We're not here just to check out what you have on your on your wall. And it worked out. So we're doing it again, actually, on July 9th.
That's huge, man. That's huge. I'm excited. I should definitely be a part of it. I would love to be a part of it, man, because I know you guys put a lot of work intentionality into making sure you all have the best content for product managers. So we're looking forward to it. Carlos, man, it was a pleasure having you on the live episode today, man. What is your big takeaway for our guy community, man?
I think what we mentioned about trying to give away as much as possible without expecting in return. But just keep in mind that giving away is not just giving away whatever. You have to put a lot of effort into building like high quality resources that people like. This is not about getting just out there with followers and whatever. No, it's about really helping people. And if you are helping one, think about how you can help 10, and then 100, and then 1,000,000.
Yeah. I love it. And how you can scale things out. Carlos, thank you so much, man. Where can our guide community follow you, man?
All right. Well, look forward to continue the conversation with any of you through Guide and obviously through Product School as well. Thank you for having me.
Of course, Carlos, man. Talk to you soon, man. We should have you on a future episode, by the way, brother.
Always,
man. Thanks, man. Talk soon. With that said, that is today's episode of Unleashing the Future of Work live, a Guide podcast. If you're interested in being a part of our early beta for Guide, check out guideapp.co. We're actually going to be launching next week and opening up the platform to a select list of amazing creators. And we're incredibly excited about that. It's going to be a really silent and gradual launch, but we're incredibly excited because it's been a year's worth of work to get to this point. So please definitely check us out at guideapp.co if you want to be a part of our early beta. And once again, if you want to be on our live podcast, check out UTFOWB2B.com. Literally, we always love people who are interested in being a guest or a sponsor. So definitely let us know, and I will definitely make sure that we have you on a future episode. With that said, y'all, thank you all so much for your attention and energy today. If you have any questions for me or you have ideas for future episode, please reach out, and I would super appreciate having a conversation with you. With that said, y'all, peace, love, and as always, abundance. Talk soon.